Maybe
Our
it
show
should
could
be.
have something. Yeah, our show could have something to do with the Ramones.
They were both Smarks and Avengers.
Well, I think one of the Ramones, I think maybe Tommy would like. Somebody said like, oh yeah, he'd be a big manga guy right now.
Well, they famously did the cover of the Spider-Man theme tune from the animated show back in the 60s.
Oh, it all
was it?
comes together.
Yeah.
It all comes together.
We didn't mention that. Well, I guess this is a Spider-Man episode, so we could talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about the Ramones.
Oh, yeah,
You know
fucking
that
Sinister
T.D.
Six.
Ramone apparently like was a sex worker to fuel his drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
Sure do.
Drugs are expensive.
Absolutely are.
Mm-hmm. Don't start the show off like that.
Oh, we've been recording, so just talking about the Ramones.
Don't make the opening of the show me saying. I mean, it's a fact, so
yeah,
we're
not saying anything incorrect.
But we just happen to know from experience that drugs are expensive.
Yes.
And we'll just leave that there.
On the episode that we just did, Dylan, earlier this week, that did include you joking about coming to America to smuggle drugs. So you're going to start getting a reputation if you're not careful.
Yes, that's right. Joking.
In game. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Smark Avengers. I'm Corey, and with me are John and Dylan. And we are not in the habit of discussing the Ramones or drugs here on the show. Mainly we talk about comic books, which some would say we do an okay job at.
I'll take that.
Well, is that what people in Poland say? I don't know. Haven't heard anything yet.
Could be. We got another German listener, by the way. We're getting big over in Europe. You guys are going to have to go on tour and like do speaking engagements.
Are you not coming?
Fuck no. I don't have a passport.
You have a passport?
No, Dylan. The United States is a very big place. I have had no reason to go outside of the country yet, nor the funds to do it.
Well, that's fair.
I'll come over and see you guys. We'll do a live recording when we're all in the same room someday.
Someday. One of these days.
Who's the shortest one here?
Me.
How tall are you?
Like 5'5".
Oh, you are short.
I think.
John, how tall are you?
I'm 6'1.5".
Yeah, that actually, honestly, that checks out because that feels like how it was. That feels like how it was. For some reason, when I envisioned as I was like, John's probably the tallest. I'm 5'7", so.
What did that have to do with anything?
I don't know. Just usually the first time you meet somebody for the first time, that's I always clock the height thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna have less respect for you now that I know you're shorter than me. You have to do what I say.
I'm not at all bothered about that.
Well, today we're not talking about height disparities. In fact, we're going to be talking about a subject matter that I feel like John and Dylan are going to be a little more comfortable with than some of the last few episodes we've done, where we've talked about the Flash and Robins and stuff. We're going to be discussing the Sinister Six. Would you guys like to inform the crowd who the Sinister Six is?
The crowd.
Hey, we got listeners.
Yeah, like they're outside our house.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah. You came all the way from Poland just to stand outside my house.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to take this time to tell everybody that I don't like that. To please stop doing this. The Sinister Six.
Stop coming into my house.
Yeah, just stay away from me completely, if that's okay with everyone. The Sinister Six are Spider-Man villains. Over to you, John.
Well, it was a group originally put together by Dr. Octopus, featuring, I think the original lineup was Doc Ock.
I got it in front of me.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you need help.
Yeah. Let John do it.
Let's do it. I'll tell you if you're right.
Okay. Doc Ock, Vulture, Electro, Mysterio, Sandman, and Kraven the Hunter.
Well done. That is the original Sinister Six.
Woo-hoo.
Do you know when they originally showed up?
It was in Spider-Man Annual #1, wasn't it?
It was.
He's good.
Do you know? Now, give me the month and year. See how
No,
good
I
you are.
can't do that.
Okay.
That's too much.
It was October 1964.
I was gonna say February 1968, so I would have been way off.
You closer, closer for sure. But yeah, no. So that is the original Sinister Six lineup, combined and united through their dislike of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not the
Understandable.
only incarnation of the Sinister Six. We talked about them a little bit off of the recording because of how many members they were, and to avoid a how to kill the Flash situation, we're not going to go through each member individually. What I will say is that there have been a lot of them, like a lot of different incarnations of the team. So let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, and that 16th Sinister Six was comprised of 6 different teams of 6 villains. So I guess you could technically say like 21, 22.
Yeah, but I said that doesn't really count, and then like the Sinister 12 doesn't count, the Sinister 16 doesn't count, the Sinister what was
Well,
it once?
Sinister
The Sinister 60
The Sinister 60? Yeah.
doesn't count because
Mm-hmm.
they're called the Sinister Six. You can't have the Sinister 60 is not part of that group.
Mm.
Not the same, you know. So really, it's only like 12, which is fine. It's a
Yeah.
normal number.
So, because there are so many different members of that group, when you think of the Sinister Six, do you just think of that original 6?
Ish. So like
Yeah.
I feel like there's a handful of like guys that you could kind of interchange. You know, the original 6 and then a couple of other ones where like if they were in the group you wouldn't bat an eyelid. And so I feel like a proper Sinister Six has some combination of them. So like the ones that we named, but also like Chameleon or Rhino, you know, I feel it could slot into there no problem. You would be
That's
like, all
the
right,
thing.
that makes sense.
I was going to say, yeah, like because Spider-Man the animated series was sort of my entry point into the Spider-Man comics and everything. Like those guys from the not the Sinister Six, but the Insidious Six, because apparently
What?
Fox thought that Sinister was too gnarly a word for kids to deal with. So they said, no, you can't call them that. You have to call them the Insidious Six.
Which is even better. Like now you're teaching kids different words. When would a
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
ever hear the word insidious?
I like to think like we're in the business of educating children, and Sinister has too few syllables for my liking. Let's throw Insidious on there.
Yeah, we need to make it longer and more complicated. We need to come up with a word where a kid can go up to their parents and go, "Hey, what does this mean?" And the parents go, "I don't fucking know."
Stop talking to me.
Get out of my house. You're not my real child.
It's a changeling came in. Throw them into the fireplace.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. You know, the strange scenario they imagine, but that's Spider-Man in the '90s for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been a lot of different members of these teams. And this is kind of an old format that we would use previously in episodes that are long gone. But we thought it would be fun to create our own Sinister Six lineups, with the idea of like, if you were tasked to, put together a team that could take down Spider-Man feasibly, who would you pick? So I think we did add some parameters. They did not just have to be Spider-Man villains. It was open to all of Marvel. It was not open to DC. I don't know if we agreed if it was going to be open to Elseworlds or not, but that's not really a problem for me.
No, not for me either.
Okay.
I mean, just make it a Marvel thing.
Yeah. So these just, that's the only parameters. They just had to be Marvel. So I have one team, and I don't know how many lineups did you create?
Technically 4.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
God.
Yeah.
You got started and you just couldn't stop.
Well, no. Okay. So what was gonna happen was I wanted to have 2 different teams, and then I was like, well, let me just make a couple more, and then I thought it'd be really funny to do a gag where I did 5 teams of Sinister Six and like intentionally leave off a 6th one. And then I also thought it'd be funny if one of the gag teams was the actual Sinister Six, but I think the time has passed for that joke. It's not gonna work,
That's fair.
you know. So
We did talk about them first.
yeah, we laid out exactly who they are, and so I don't think the joke's gonna work. So really, I have 4 teams, 4 Sinister Six teams.
John, how many Sinister Six teams do you have?
Just one.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I was a smart man, I would have done one as well.
See, I was worried that I was underprepared because I only made one. But Dylan, you made up for both John and I. So
Yeah,
you
if you
have
guys want to
one.
borrow one of my teams, let me know.
Well, we'll see.
Yes, we
Yeah,
will.
and if we go through these really fast, it might be fun just to like off the cuff 6 members of the Sinister Six, like who you come up with when you're not really thinking.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess, does anybody have a preference as to who goes first? I know, Dylan, you got a few, but I know sometimes you like to go last.
Yeah, should I go last? What if I do one of my teams now?
Yeah, do one of your teams, then John will do a team, and then you do another one of your teams, and then I'll do a team, and then you do your last 2 teams.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
that will confuse nobody.
So I have 4 different teams with 4 different gimmicks, I guess, if you will. So you guys can pick which one you want to hear first. I have one which is just Spider-Man villains. I have one which is like a water-based team, which I liked. I have one that's villains from all over Marvel, not just Spider-Man. And then I have one which is just females. It's all ladies. So if you guys want to pick which Sinister Six you want to hear from, and I'll tell you all about it.
John, do you have a preference?
I'm kind of interested in the water-based one. I'm guessing that was inspired by the old itsy bitsy spider getting washed down the water spout.
There you go.
No, it was well. You'll very quickly pick up on what it was influenced by.
Okay.
Do you want to? Should we go with that one then?
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought it'd be funny to make a team based on water themed villains, because I'm like, there's bound to be loads of them, right? Because you know Spider-Man has got loads of like insect based villains or that kind of thereabouts. I'm like, there's probably loads of water based villains, right? So for this one, the leader, I went with Dr. Octopus because he's an octopus, right? That's in the water.
There you
You
go.
can see
Checks out. Octopus
Yeah.
is in the water,
right?
following you.
No issues there. Could Dr. Octopus actually go in the water? Probably not. You would imagine his tentacles would get electrified or whatever. It wouldn't
He'd
work.
probably sink pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work, but for the basis of this imaginary list, let's say that Dr. Octopus is the leader.
Isn't that the cruelest irony about Dr. Octopus, though, that he would likely sink underwater just due to the weight of his arms?
Yeah. Is that the cruelest irony?
I mean, the first cut is the deepest, as Sheryl Crow would say.
They never address this in the comics, and I feel like they're missing a trick.
They probably are. You know, there's that spider that extends its legs and is able to kind of like balance on the surface of the water. I'm kind of curious if like that would work for Dr. Octopus too. Like if he extended all of his legs and arms really far, would he just like be perfectly balanced on top of water?
I don't think so.
You know, though, I guess it's probably for the best that Dr. Octopus doesn't go into the water that often, or his main enemy would be the Stingray. And that's probably a Marvel character that very few people know about because you don't get a lot of opportunities to have underwater adventures with the Stingray.
Yeah. Boy, Stingray would have really helped me out when I was coming up with this team. That's a bit of a spoiler. So Dr. Octopus, obviously leader of the gang, but you gotta have like a kind of like a tough guy backing you up. So I went with Hydra Man, who
Of course.
I think we talked about in another episode that went up. I really like Hydra Man. I don't know why, but I really like him. And so, he's kind of like a dumb guy, but he could be the muscle of the group. I thought that would be really good. Then I went with the Squid, similar to Doctor Octopus. He's got lots of arms. That's pretty much all he does. I think he has some kind of ink squirting ability. Standard Squid stuff. So he could be there. He could be like a protege to Doctor Octopus if he wanted, or he could, just be there to try to steal secrets from Doctor Octopus. There's levels to this.
Okay.
He could absolutely do something there. The eel, because eels are in water. He doesn't have a part of the storyline.
Okay.
The walrus, because they kind of live in water. I mean, and you can see exactly when this idea fell apart, right? The first two, great idea, and then the rest of it happened, and then I ran out of people so I invented a new character called Crab Claws, and he's the sixth guy. Crab Claws. He has big crab claws for hands, and that's it. Doesn't like boiling water.
No, I would not either if I were a crab. So if you
Yeah.
like the perfect, it's probably for the best that he's on the good side of Hydra Man, because all Hydra Man would really need to do is like have a team up with the Human Torch, and the crab's done.
Yeah, but also I don't imagine Crab Claws is too much of a threat to anybody. So
No, it's
Hydra
very
Man probably wouldn't
particular
have
group.
to. Yeah, he probably wouldn't have to do too much to him. He would just be like,
Maybe,
whatever.
do we know for a fact if Spider-Man has a shellfish allergy though?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because maybe that could be his advantage if if he makes Spider-Man like have to reach for an EpiPen anytime he's nearby.
Yeah, but also like if that was a thing, that feels like something they would have introduced already.
See, and that's kind of why like we wouldn't be really great at Marvel, because I would have pitched that idea. It's like, no, but he's a serious threat because Peter Parker, like when he was 12, he had a crab roll and it made him like swell up and he had to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, and also we never mentioned that in the 70
Well, I
years of
mean,
Spider-Man.
how organically does that come up in a conversation? You normally find out if somebody has a food allergy if you're about to consume said food, because that person goes,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I can't. I'm allergic." I just don't know if how many panels over the years have been like, Peter and Mary Jane hanging out and Mary Jane going, "Hey, I was thinking about like let's go to Red Lobster for dinner," because I know Red Lobster probably has like the best Red Lobster in the world, probably is New York City. And Peter's like, "Oh no, I can't because I have a shellfish allergy."
I mean, that does not sound like a riveting Spider-Man comic to you.
I enjoy a slice of life comic.
Yeah, where like Spider-Man and Mary Jane are just eating soup.
Yeah,
And
they're just
nothing
hanging around. They're
happens.
just hanging around in the living room discussing what they're gonna have for dinner.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't know, you decide. She's like, I always have to decide. And he's like, we have this conversation all the time. Oh, you're just like my mother. And then,
But
goes from there.
also, if you're deciding, make sure we don't go to a seafood restaurant because it makes me sick. And then
Mhm.
that's the exposition that explains it. But then Crab Claus jumps through the window and he's like, "Aha! Finally, I've also figured out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man."
You know what though? I would be for that. It would be a great storyline if like a really low level villain found out like the hero's super identity, but he's so low level nobody believes him.
That was the gimmick I wanted to do. If I was writing Spider-Man, like that was something I was gonna do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I can't remember what villain it was, but I had somebody in mind, and like he like somehow he figures out who Spider-Man is, and it's like a really obvious way of figuring it out. He did it, but like nobody else was like, "Come on, man, that guy. There's no way he's Spider-Man," and nobody believes him. Anyway, so that was my water-based. Are there any questions?
How would they fare against Spider-Man in like a landlocked state? So, like, say if they were all in Oklahoma for some reason, like, how are
The
they
Dust
gonna? How are they gonna, like, utilize their water abilities to demolish Spider-Man?
I would say very poorly.
You know what though? Maybe like if you're writing the Hydro Man 6-issue miniseries, Dylan, that might be a really good story arc. You could like redeem him and turn into a hero if he goes to like a part of the country that is like suffering a drought, and he's like, "Oh, I got this," and Hydro Man becomes like the city of like the hero of like West Texas.
Do they drink him?
No, he waters the crops
With himself?
Yeah.
And then
you could do it, but it's just called urination when you do it.
And then he's in the plants?
So are you suggesting that every drop of water of Hydro Man he has this same shared conscious with?
But then this is
because if so, we're gonna have to have a really uncomfortable conversation about the number of times Spider-Man has technically been inside of Hydro Man, and like that's lore, and that's really weird.
I don't think that's an uncomfortable conversation at all. I feel like that's a natural thing to talk about.
It's beautiful.
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't prepared for this level of conversation about how I think we should actually save that for a different show.
Okay. We'll have we can have a a physiology episode where we look at like a character and we talk about the things that are disturbing to us about their bodies.
Yeah. I think that could work.
It'll be the body shaming episode.
It's not body shaming. We want to make it very clear. We're not going to shame anybody. But also, these are fictional characters, so we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, grow up.
Yeah. Leave us alone.
How come more people don't listen to us?
To be totally fair, though, we haven't been body shaming anybody. Let's not start that rumor. We haven't done
2024. Start the bullying.
We didn't do anything wrong, okay? It's all good. Anyway.
All right. So, John, would you like to go with your lineup?
Yeah, sure. You might notice a theme with the guys I picked, but I'll leave it up to you if you can spot it. But
are they all water-based?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, because I got that. That's my guess.
I figured
you cornered the market.
You'd have to be crazy to do water-based.
Yeah, you'd have to be pretty fucking stupid to come up with
that. So I am a big fan of all the Goblin characters, but I've figured, it'd be too obvious to go for Norman Osborn, and I've always had a soft spot for the Hobgoblin, so I'd go for old Roderick Kingsley, who, as far as I'm aware, wasn't a member of the Sinister Six, although I think a version of the Hobgoblin was at one point. But he's basically, he's got all the powers of the Goblin formula, but none of the madness that plagued the Osborns. A bit of a manipulator as well, so and he's obviously got some beef with Spider-Man. So there you go. There's the leader of our group. Next,
do you mind to interject in just one moment? The only Hobgoblin I'm seeing that is credited is Jason Macendale.
Yeah, that's the one I thought was. I remember reading like a French comic when I went over to France on a school trip with that. I think it must have been that series where the Sinister Six reformed after however many years, and he was part of it. But I couldn't understand a word of it because it was all in French. So
there you go.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, member number 2 is a guy called Fritz von Meyer, who you might know as Swarm, who was a Nazi scientist who discovered a colony of mutated bees in South America. But unfortunately, the bees ate his body and left only his skeleton behind. But,
that happens a lot.
Worst comes to worst, your consciousness can suddenly be absorbed by this kill a hive of mutated bees and then allow you to sort of manipulate them into recreating your body through the hive. So, that's what happened. And he's been a Spider-Man foe before. He's even been on a version of the Sinister Six before, apparently, along with such renowned names as 8-Ball, Delilah, Killer Shrike, Melter, and a guy you had on your team, Dylan, Squid.
Classic.
So
He was the leader of that group of the Sinister Six, too.
there you go. Don't, sleep on Swarm. He's a tough son of a gun.
I mean, you couldn't. It would just sting you if you slapped on him.
Exactly.
But he's a smart man. He's a scientist. It makes sense.
I have two things to bring up about Swarm.
Okay,
one,
just two.
he was defeated in that his Sinister Six lineup was defeated by Hellion, who is a younger and mutant character from the X-Men world. And I just thought that was funny because he got beat by a teenager essentially. And two, this is the second time Swarm has shown up on the show.
Yeah. Won't be
on our
last.
episode of Weird Superpowers from a year ago, Swarm was one of your picks, John. So we've learned that John really likes Nazi bees.
Can I just interject briefly? I was thinking about putting Swarm on one of my teams.
I was surprised they were Swarm toys. I was looking
really?
Yeah, there's action figures of Swarm.
Absolutely.
How do you make an action figure of a man made of bees? Apparently, pretty easily.
Yeah, man. I had good fun with my Swarm action figure.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Did that action figure influence this decision in any way?
I think it may have done subconsciously.
Yeah.
And I'm only just realizing this now that it's been brought up.
Is it in the room right now? Yeah.
So my third member is Tony Masters, aka Taskmaster, who's a mercenary for hire. He can mimic any fighting style or move that he sees someone else perform, thanks to his photographic reflexes. And I guess he's sort of like a go-to guy as well if you're forming a team, since he's been on the Thunderbolts, the Fightful Four, Secret Avengers, the Shadow Initiative, the Masters of Evil, the Cape Killers, and he's worked for Shield and AIM and as well, or AIM. I don't know how do you pronounce it, AIM or AIM? I don't know.
I say
I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. Or you could just be pretentious and say advanced idea mechanics.
Yeah. I should have done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a good guy to have on your team if you're having a team. So there's member number 3.
Can I just say, John, already I'm really liking your team because I was thinking about picking Taskmaster for one of my teams as well. You were on the same wavelength here. I like this.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can make it 4 for 4 then. So my fourth member was Crimson Cowl.
Okay, well, we had a good run.
Crimson Cow?
Yeah, cowl.
Like the bovine?
No.
No. Okay. I would say I have not heard of Crimson Cow. Because I was gonna say they're we'll go to the tie in the Smark Avengers thing very briefly. They're in Chikara, which was a promotion in Philadelphia area in Pennsylvania. They did this gimmick where they had a wrestler, his name was Create a Wrestler, and fans would submit in ideas for what they thought his gimmick should be. And the very first time they ran that gimmick, Moscow, the communist bovine, won. So yeah, there was a guy in a cow outfit with a singlet with a hammer and sickle on it, and I just immediately, that's where my mind went when I heard Crimson Cow.
Yeah, this is definitely not bovine related. It was originally a gimmick that Ultron used, where he sort of, I think he basically manipulated Jarvis, the Avengers butler, and got him like hypnotized or something, and manipulated him. But this version that I am picking for my team isn't Jarvis. It's Justine Hammer, who is the daughter of Justin Hammer, famously played by Sam Rockwell in
Rockwell.
the
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 movie. And she basically created her own version of the Masters of Evil and battled the Thunderbolts back in the day. And she has a cloak which has several abilities, like being able to sort of stretch out and attack, or wrap itself around enemies, or allows her to like levitate as well and teleport. So she's
That's
got
powerful.
she's got a lot going on right there. And then for my fifth member, I went for a guy I mentioned, I think last week, maybe in one of the other ones we did with the Flash. But this is Corvus Glaive, a member of Thanos's Black Order, who, like I said last time, wields a glaive, which is a really sharp blade that's so sharp that it can split atoms and basically just like cut through anything.
Just create nuclear fucking mushroom clouds every time he swings it, because he's splitting atoms with every swing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's a level of control on that.
He basically can't die as well unless the blade has been broken. So, I mean, that's a pretty good, factor to have on your team, I think. Like someone who's basically immortal.
Do we have to do an episode where we kill this guy?
Oh, I hope
We
not.
could.
Yeah, I think we could. We could do that.
And then the last member of my team is Parker Robbins, aka The Hood.
Hey, we're back because I was thinking about using the Hood.
I just unfortunately caught the gimmick, John.
Yeah, thank God someone did. Yeah, so he was basically just a regular guy, a regular thief who managed to stumble upon like some sort of mystic ritual where he stole like the cape and boots from a demon, and then was imbued with the power of flight and like magic bullets and being able to teleport and turn invisible. And yeah, he basically formed his own crime syndicate and showed he was like a team player as far as criminal groups go. And he also worked with the Crimson Cowl when he did that as well. So, there's a bit of teamwork going on there. And yeah, there you go. There's my Sinister Six.
So, Dylan, did you catch the gimmick behind John's?
I didn't, but
all right,
that's because
they have a real weakness if they have to look to their left or right.
What?
John, go ahead and tell them what it is.
They basically all wear hooded capes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a stylistic choice more than anything. Although I guess it means that like laundry day is going to be pretty rough. Everyone trying to wash their cloaks at the same time.
Yeah, I'm looking at Crimson Cowls right now, and that thing definitely has to be dragging the ground when she moves.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah, you can't put a price on style,
Exactly.
I think that was a pretty good team. Like I said, there's a lot of guys on there that I probably was either thinking about or was maybe on one of my teams. You don't know.
I'll be honest though, I didn't really factor in the whole going after Spider-Man part at all, so I don't know how they do against him.
I know. I mean, just the same on my water-based team. It seems like a good idea, but then you're like, well, why would these 6 guys be together? What is the motivation for any of these fucking guys, But I think it was a pretty good team, though.
Thank you.
Pretty happy with that.
So Dylan, you've got 3 more teams.
Yes, I do.
What gimmick? What are the other identifiers? And we'll pick one of those.
One of them is Spider-Man villains. One of them is just villains from all over Marvel. And one of them is a female-based team.
Which one do you want to save for last? And we'll pick from the other two.
I don't know. Maybe I should do my all villains one. I'll do that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this is the one where I was thinking about using some of those guys that John used. So I was thinking about Taskmaster on this team maybe. And I was either going to do Taskmaster or this guy, and I went with this guy just because me and John have some kind of psychic link where I knew exactly what he was going to do. So I went with the first guy I thought of for my other team was Bullseye.
Oh, that's a good pick.
He's a really good character to have on a team. You know, he's just a horrible person, but he's also really good at what he does. Quite like Taskmaster. They're both very good at what they do, and they're both very good at like that kind of fighting, which is a little bit more physical. You know, more hand to hand kind of thing, or you know, they're not like shooting lasers out of their eyes or fighting you with a body made out of bees. They're a bit
more grounded.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. So I went with Bullseye because I thought he was. I also like him. I think he's pretty cool. But I thought, all right, if we're gonna have a leader, Bullseye isn't a leader. He's not a leader. He's just a psychotic mess, basically. But if you're gonna have a leader of a Sinister Six team, who's the most sinister person in Marvel Comics? Right?
I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to spoil it.
I imagine you both do. Which is Mr. Sinister, right?
There you go.
He's the most sinister. It's in his name. He's a sinister man. So I thought, well, he makes sense. Yeah. So there you go. It's Mr. Sinister. We got Bullseye. Everybody needs a big powerhouse on their team. Big brute of a guy. So I went with Juggernaut. I like that boy. But I think he, as a villain, I think he makes more sense as a villain than a hero, which I think we briefly touched upon when we were talking about recent X-Men stuff.
Yeah, we did last week.
I went with Juggernaut. I think he was pretty good. I wanted somebody kind of like trickstery, you know, like in the original team they had Mysterio, and then in later teams they've had Chameleon and stuff like that. I wanted somebody kind of like that. I wanted to try to cover a lot of bases. So I went with Mystique, which I thought would be an interesting kind of choice. Also because I realized a lot of these teams are very male-based, and I needed to put fucking some females in there at some point. I thought Mystique would be a really good idea. She can cover that kind of Mysterio chameleon role really well. I also went with Ghost. Are you guys familiar with Ghost?
I am very familiar with Ghost.
Yeah, I always thought he was really cool. So, you know, he's also a little bit more trixier. You can see like a lot of those guys are quite grounded. A lot of these guys, Mr. Sinister is a bit of a madman, but a lot of these other guys are kind of more grounded, more, you know, that kind of team. And then the last pick, obviously, I went with Hydra Man.
Yes,
because you need. What are the
well,
chances?
as we discussed with the Iceman episode, every team needs somebody whose whole power is one element.
Yeah.
John, your power, your one character whose one element was bees.
Bees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember in Captain Planet where it was like Earth, fire, water, wind,
bees,
love, and then bees?
Is that German kid just loudly screaming bees at the top of his lungs? Oh no, he's covered in them. They're eating his body.
He's fine. He'll be all right. You know. So that was my all villains team. Pretty solid for the most part. Maybe one guy you might think is a little out of place, but the rest of them, I thought that was a pretty good team. To be fair, what do you guys think?
You have no complaints?
No complaints about that one at all.
Well, I mean, Hydra Man maybe is
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's doing there, but
He's just
why
making some
not?
money. He's
Yeah.
just there to make some money, Why not?
So can you run down, just as a quick recap, who all was on your team?
Mr. Sinister, Bullseye, Mystique, Juggernaut, Ghost, and Hydra Man. It's not a bad team.
Yeah, no, I really like the inclusion of Ghost. I always just think of Warren Ellis's Thunderbolts from the Dark Reign era, because that was really that's where I got really introduced to the character and enjoyed it. I did not see Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I have no idea how Ghost did there, but I did see the Ghost as a part of that Thunderbolts lineup that's going to be on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
No, I think it was a good lineup. I kind of liked the mix of the villains there. So anyway, mine, like John, I also have a bit of a gimmick with my characters.
Okay.
Now, it should also be noted, I've said it a couple of times, Spider-Man is not one of my main characters.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my knowledge of Spider-Man comes from the cartoon, and when Todd McFarlane was doing the art in the 90s. So, that being said, what I know the most about Spider-Man is much like the natural enemy of fire is water, the natural enemy of spiders is goblins. So,
hardly so. Yes.
leading this version of the Sinister Six is the Green Goblin.
I mean, fair enough, right?
Now, which Green Goblin? Who else to fight Spider-Man than the man who grew up calling him his best friend, Harry Osborn?
Interesting choice.
Yes. My second character that will be in this, it is another character who has some history with Spider-Man. I'm going to go, and was he also a member of the Sinister Six previously, we discussed. I'm also going with the Hobgoblin, but I'm going with Jason McIndale.
Oh, that's a brave choice.
Yeah, because he's kind of a prick.
Well, kind of.
Yeah. So I've got Green Goblin. I've got Hobgoblin. This is a character that I know is vicious and mean and vile because of his association with renowned serial killer Cletus Cassidy. I'm going with the Demogoblin.
Okay. Can I just say, John earlier was like, I like the goblins, but I'm not gonna. It would be too obvious to make a team of all goblins. Just want to remind everybody that that's what happened earlier.
Yep. Really put the fear of God in me for a moment. I went, oh no, John somehow managed to pick up my same gimmick. So I've got Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin. I've got Jason McIndale as the Hobgoblin. I've got the Demogoblin, who is a demon from Limbo, if I'm not mistaken. So, like father, like son, my fourth pick is going to be the Golden Goblin, Norman Osborn, because we all know it's only a matter of time before Norman reverts back to his villainous ways.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way for father and son to bond than by going after Spider-Man?
Makes
You know what's
sense.
even better when father and son bond?
Father, son, and grandson?
Yes, the Red Goblin joining Sinister Six lineup. So I've got Normie Osborn, who has the added benefit of having a symbiote in the group. So, there's some differences there. You've got Harry Osborn doing the classic gimmick. You got Jason McIndale, who's the Green Goblin without all the added insanity. You've got a literal demon. You've got a symbiote. You've got Norman,
who child.
You've got Norman, who's like, he's got all the experience. He was He was the Iron Patriot, and was like the director of Sword or Shield or whatever, or Hammer, whatever the fuck they were calling his thing in Dark Reign. So I've got one spot left.
Please don't be the Grey Goblin.
No, it is not the Grey Goblin, because much like Dylan, I have an eye for diversity. And I think it's important that everybody feels like they're welcome at the Sinister Six table. And so I'm reaching outside of the confines of the Spider-Man world. And if a demon from Limbo is going to be part of the team, it only makes sense that the demonic queen of Limbo be there as well. I'm talking about Madeline Pryor, aka the Goblin Queen.
Goblin Queen.
Ah,
I
of
was like, what the
course.
fuck other goblin could it be? Of course.
And that is my lineup: the Sinister Six: oops, all goblins.
Oops, all goblins. I gotta say, there's some interesting choices there. You know, the Jason McAndale as a hobgoblin, I gotta say, I don't think a lot of people would have said their favorite hobgoblin is Jason McAndale. When I started reading comics, he was the hobgoblin.
Mm.
It was him.
And he was the Hobgoblin in the animated show as well.
Yes, he was. So he was actually the hobgoblin like quite a while, most of the 90s, I think. So I get that, you know.
I thought he was the Demo Goblin as well, though.
He
like
was.
he got
He
possessed.
was.
He got possessed
Yeah.
by it, but the Demogoblin is in fact just a demon.
Well, yes, it combined with him, but then it split off as a separate thing, and it was like a demon that you know already existed anyway, and then just joined with him at some point. So,
So can I explain my rationale with why I went with Jason?
Yes.
Okay. I was originally going to go with Phil Ulrich because his hobgoblin design was the one with the wings and the flaming sword and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, I feel like more people know who Jason McAndale is, so I'm going to go with that one.
Okay. So
hard-hitting research on that one.
Yeah, not your own personal preference. You're like, nah, just what the people want.
It's what the people want. We give the people what they want.
Do the people want Jason McAndale though?
the people want an all goblins lineup of the Sinister Six.
All goblins, all the time.
All goblins. You got 3 members of the Osborn family: father, son, grandfather. You've got, you got a lady that's a demon. You got one of the demons that probably serve her. And then you got Jason McAndale.
Who has no ties to that whatsoever.
Has no connection to anybody. He was at one point possessed by the Demogoblin. I guess we could argue that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll give you that.
Yeah, please do. I need all the help I can get.
Pretty good. I mean, it ties together better than my water-based villains. So, fair enough. John, what do you think about
Who
the
fuck
all
is
goblins?
the Gray Goblin?
The Gray
Goblin was
Norman's son that he had with Gwen Stacy, apparently, which I think
son of a
Gabriel
bitch!
Stacey.
I could have put another Osborn on there.
Yeah, but thankfully, I think they retconned that, so I'm not sure.
I remember
what the hell's
seeing
going
those
on.
panels of Norman Osborn and the Gwen Stacy sex scene. That was.
Yeah.
Ever wanted to see Tommy Lee Jones in mid coitus? There you go.
For the record, one of I think unanimously one of the worst, most hated Spider-Man storylines ever. I remember reading that and being like, this sucks.
Who made that
do
call? Who made that call? It's so creepy.
None of it makes any sense. It's all a horrible, why would anybody do this, And then they really tried to make it a thing, and it's not gonna work. Put it away,
Yeah, was it just because at this point, Gwen Stacy is kind of like a saint in the world of Spider-Man?
I mean, I guess, but I think it's just a case of they just don't know how to leave shit alone.
They thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, they're like, why don't we do this? This will keep people interested. And we're like, it'll get them talking.
It ended up tying into the whole Kindred storyline as well, where I think wasn't Gabriel the real Kindred or something, the sort of demon that was manipulating Spider-Man and Norman Osborn and ruining both their lives and stuff. But I don't know. It was awful.
Yeah, this is actually something we were talking about before we started today's show. Me and Corey were talking about that the Sinister Six, where there's 6 different teams of Sinister teams, is part of the Kindred storyline. And I was telling Corey where that story, the Kindred idea started off this is interesting. It could go somewhere. It's got potential, and it ended like it just nobody knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. And to be fair, he tried to like tie some storylines together and tried to make that fucking awful storyline with Norman Osborn. Tried to make it make sense. Unfortunately, what he did was just made everything way more confusing.
Yep.
You know?
So this was JMS who did this.
Who did the original?
Yeah, it was
Gwen
Nick
Stacy.
Spencer who did the Kindred stuff.
Kindred. Yes.
So yeah, what I'm looking at when it comes to this is it was JMS and Mike Diodato, which I could have told you it was Diodato with Norman looking like Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
But JMS apparently also, it was so poorly received that JMS later himself tried to retcon that event as well.
Yeah, they tried to bring him back and fix it. And you're like, this is,
so JMS, to go on a small little tirade, JMS did Babylon 5. Like that was his creation, the sci-fi television series. I remember when he got put on Superman in the early 2010s, and like there was all this talk about how good it was going to be. The JMS understood the character. You know what his big great idea for Superman was?
Superman has sex with Gwen Stacy.
No. Superman's going to walk across the country because he needs to reconnect with the everyman. So it was just Superman literally walking across the country, like not flying, not doing anything. And every issue was like, all right, well, this is a weird thing that happened in this small city in Oklahoma that Superman just happened to know about because he was walking through it.
Couldn't like all of the villains like realize Superman's doing that shit and be like, hey, right now is the fucking perfect time to do a crime.
You know what makes that even easier, Dylan? It was a press conference. He announced that he was doing it.
Yeah, right. All they had to do was see that thing. Go, oh, great! In like 2 weeks' time, whenever he's in fucking Alabama or whatever, we're gonna rob a bank. You know,
yes,
he'll never know.
You know, and JMS didn't even finish that storyline. He left it to Chris Roberson, I believe, to finish the storyline out. So like, Brian Michael Bendis did. Like, I'm gonna introduce this thing, and now it's your job to clean it up. Goodbye.
Imagine being left that storyline. It's not a storyline. You know what I mean? Like, imagine somebody going, hey, you get the new Superman job. All you got to do is finish and make sense out of the fact that Superman is just walking across America for no reason. He's about halfway there, you know? Like, yeah. How do I fix it? Oh, I know. Don't make him do this. Right? Done.
It's just, he gets partway through Cheyenne, Wyoming. He's like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah. He's like, I'm Superman. What am I doing?
What are you even doing here?
I could fucking fly, you know? Stupid.
So
anyway.
Yeah, so Dylan, we got two more teams of Spider-Man teams to go. You've got an all Spider-Man villain lineup, and you also have an all women lineup. Which one do you feel like doing first?
Which one do you want to hear?
Let's hear the women first.
Okay, cool. So this one came about because I started to think about how whenever I think back to when I started reading comics in the 90s, it felt like they kept introducing like female versions of male supervillains.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I could just make a Sinister Six out of those guys, right? And much like the water-based one, I very quickly came unstuck, which we'll probably figure out as we travel down this merry path. But once again, we're going to go with Dr. Octopus, because there was a female Dr. Octopus in the 90s, because they killed Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
In the 90s, Kane snapped his neck, and then they were like, well, we still like the idea of Dr. Octopus. So let's just bring him back as a woman with no connection to Otto Octavius whatsoever.
I thought, wasn't she like a lab assistant or something? Or
I don't know. She was the daughter of Seward Trainer, who was a scientist that was helping Ben Reilly, and so that's how they tied it into the Clone Saga at the time. So I'm like, okay, cool. That's good. You know, a good Sinister Six has a Dr. Octopus on the team, so let's run with that. We got a female Dr. Octopus. Who else is a female supervillain? I went with, I think her name is Scorpina, female Scorpion. She's just a female Scorpion. Like, bam. That's another one done. Sweet. Also, the Beetle is now a female, I believe.
Tombstone's daughter.
Yes, that was Superior Foes of Spider-Man, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's that's another female. That's pretty much where I got unstuck. So
there's
I had to ask.
A female Electro as well, though.
Wow. Yeah. I got unstuck there, and I asked my brother for help, and he very kindly said Electro. So I'm like, great, female Electro on the team. So then I was like, Lady Stiltman. I also find out that there's a Lady Bullseye.
Yes.
Yeah.
So either she was a bigger character too.
Either of those could work. And then to round off the Sinister Six females, I went with Hydra Man, but he's a Hydra Woman because if he's made out of water, couldn't he just make himself look like a woman?
Well, so Dylan, it is called gender fluid.
Right, and he's fluid.
Emphasis on the fluid,
Yeah, so there we go. That's the joke. Work. That's the joke of the episode. Shut it down.
Yeah. We don't even need to hear my last team. Fuck them.
Nope. We're done.
We're done. So what's funny with that is, John, I had like some kind of connection to almost all of your picks except for the Crimson Coil, who was Justine Hammer, which is like a female version of Justin Hammer. So I'm like, well, that kind of ties in. So really,
that counts.
Yeah. We were on pretty much the same page all the way around. Absolutely. So that was my female Sinister Six, which was a good idea in theory. Didn't really play off too well. Any questions about that one before I tell you my actual Sinister Six?
No, it sounds
good
to
I
me.
think you pretty much nailed it.
Okay, glad we're happy enough with that one. So my actual Sinister Six with like Spider-Man villains, and this again is going to tie it all around to everybody's picks. My leader of my Sinister Six was the Hobgoblin.
Hey.
So the Hobgoblin has appeared on all. Roderick Kingsley.
Okay.
The original, the man, the myth, the legend. So Hobgoblin has been on all of our teams. We all picked Hobgoblin, which is I didn't think we were. I honestly thought we would all pick Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting turn of events. But I went with Hobgoblin because I always liked the Hobgoblin. I felt that sometimes they overplay the Green Goblin. In comics, there's a lot of convoluted Green Goblin storylines, whereas I always find most of the time, like Hobgoblin storylines are pretty good. Rarely misses. Although it also gets convoluted because it's comics and it's a goblin, so they have to make it fucking complicated. But I went with Hobgoblin as my leader. I wanted somebody kind of like a trickster, like I talked about with Mystique. So I went with Chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like the Chameleon. I think he's a fun character. Again, it's either him or Mysterio, basically. But I went with Chameleon just because he wasn't on. He's one of the guys that like you wouldn't blink if you saw him in the Sinister Six, but he wasn't in the original one. So I'm like, all right, we can work with that. And going along with that, I also picked as my powerhouse. I picked Rhino because again, there's a guy. You saw him in the Sinister Six, you're like, that makes sense, but he wasn't in the original. So I'm like, he feels like he fits, so I liked him. I went with the Shocker because I just really like the Shocker. And again, I think part of that is like the TV show, the 90s animated show.
Mm-hmm.
The Shocker seemed to be there all the time, but I just like him. So I thought he's a fun character who maybe doesn't get enough love. I think he ended up looking like a real dork in the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and I think he's a cool character, so I picked him. And then I went with the Spot, who again is a character that maybe everybody thinks he's a bit of a dork or whatever, but I feel like he's kind of on the upswing again in terms of like being a big deal. He was in the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse film.
Yeah.
He was really good in that. And he's like, if you use his powers properly, he could be like a teleporter or the transport kind of guy that would work with the team. So again, you're covering all the bases, you know. Do you guys want to guess who my last pick is?
Is he H2O based?
Yes, he is.
Ooh. Is he the eel?
No.
My
Oh,
guess is going to be Iceman on a summer day.
Does he melt though?
Maybe.
Does he?
the Melter?
We didn't cover that in
The
our
Melter. If the Melter teams up with Iceman, you get this melty Iceman, and that's your last member.
the slushy,
The
Yeah,
puddle.
the slushy.
the puddle. Yeah. Mr. Gloopy. We'll come up with the official name later. Guy, if you're listening to this, write what name you think he should have in the comments. You know what? This will surprise you guys, but I actually went with Hydroman as my last pick,
Son
just
of a bitch.
because he needs some more love, really. So I went with him, and that was it. What do you think of that team?
I like the
I
fact
mean-
3 of the 6 members were from the animated Insidious 6.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, do you remember the full animated team?
Yeah, it was Doc Ock, Chameleon, Rhino, Shocker, Scorpion, and Mysterio originally, and then Mysterio got switched out in the last season because he'd basically not turned good, but he'd sort of redeemed himself a little bit and then got blown up in one of the episodes before, and then
Like you
the
do.
Vulture took his place.
Makes sense. So, bad way to go though, getting blown up.
Well, he got blown up with the sort of love of his life, so it was okay.
Oh, fair enough then.
You got blown up by the lover's life?
With the lover of his life.
Oh. Yeah, no, that's great. If you've got to blow up, at least, take somebody down with you, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna die, take an innocent bystander out with you.
It's the old Romeo and Juliet, like, let's all go out in a big bang.
Yeah, fuck them, right? There we go. So that's we had what 6 different Sinister Six teams.
Yes.
Basically, it's funny how that worked out.
Yeah, it is interesting how that worked out, considering only 2 of us made one.
Hell of a hey man, you got to put the work in.
Yeah, you sure did.
If anybody's listening to this, which they probably aren't, or it might be if you're in Germany, I guess. Come up with your own Sinister Six characters, stick them in the comments, or let us know which one you think is the best. Pretty obviously, it's the water one.
Yep.
We can all agree. We can all vote that the water Sinister Six.
I mean,
is
really,
the best one.
it may not be his main weakness, but nobody likes having wet socks.
No.
It's happened to us like once. You're doing the dishes, you're wearing socks, a bit of water gets on the floor, you step on it, ruined your day.
Yeah, it's something they don't expand upon in the comics enough. I don't think.
Well, and that Spider-Man's suit, it's so stretchy because it is just in fact one very large sock.
Yeah. This is in canon.
Mm-hmm.
We're not making this up. This is true.
Yeah, absolutely. You can trust us.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. The most trustworthy people on the internet.
Yeah. So I am looking at the list of all these people who have been part of the Sinister Six in the past. We're not going to read all of their names, but there's some people who turn up on them because we were looking at Spider-Man villains. I will tell you, there's some names on here for characters I have never heard of, and I'm curious if you guys know who they are.
We probably do.
Who's Gog?
Gog?
G-O-G? Gog?
He was a monster who I believe was he became Boomerang's pet for some reason.
Was he not? Was that the one that Kraven the Hunter found in the Savage Land?
Possibly.
Yeah, it looks like
He-
it is. Kraven takes him in and decides to raise him as a pet.
Yeah.
Your knowledge
Why he
is
would be
amazing,
in the
guys.
Sinister Six, I don't fucking know, but you know.
Well, Kraven was, and he just, he brought his dog to work. I had a coworker once who told everybody in the office that he trained service dogs, and so for a few months he'd bring this golden retriever into the office, and like I was a bit suspicious about the whole training service dogs thing because like this dog would just wander around the office and like go through people's trash cans. And then one day the dog wasn't around anymore, and somebody asked him what happened, and he was like, "Oh, somebody complained about having a service dog here, but I don't know why. I mean, we're just training them so they can help people." I'm like, I don't think you were training a service dog. I think you just liked having your dog around.
Mhm.
So maybe that's what happened. He was the service dog of the Sinister Six.
You wouldn't want Gog to be near a service dog, though.
Yeah, well, what they don't tell you about Kraven the Hunter is he does like suffer from a like low level of anxiety where being in public and having to interact with people makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. He'd rather just kill people,
Yeah.
animals, stuff. You know?
All right, who's the Trapster?
Oh, I was gonna put the Trapster on one of my lists. I love the Trapster.
That's
He
Pace
was-
Pot
Costume
Pete.
looks fun.
Pace Pot Pete. Yeah.
That's Pace Pot Pete. Oh man,
Yes.
Yeah.
he did the
He
wrong
read-
thing,
he-
changing his name.
That was why he changed his name, is because Spider-Man kept making fun of Pace Pot Pete,
Spider-Man's such a dick. Pace Pot
isn't he?
Pete was such a better name. I knew what I was getting into. That's a guy who deals with glue. Pace Pot Pete.
Yeah. But now he traps you in the glue.
Okay, sure.
See?
The Living Brain.
That's like a big robot thing.
Now, here's the
Yeah.
thing about it, though. If your brain's not alive, you are not alive. So I think that's a bit of an oxymoron to be the
Yeah,
living
I
brain.
mean, you can't really say the living brain is a robot because you're like, it's a robot, it doesn't live. But I believe Dr. Octopus, whenever he went into Peter Parker's body and was
Mhm.
Spider-Man for a while, then when he left, he brought the living brain on as his assistant. And then
Yes.
whenever Peter Parker's consciousness came back, Dr. Octopus just snuck into the living brain for a while.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
All right. By Beast.
By Beast is just a weird thing with like two faces.
Probably.
I think it's just like a monster thing, but it has two faces.
Yeah. It looks like he has a face stacked on top of a face.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Human Fly.
It's just a guy that is. Oh,
Is that
I mean,
Baxter Stockman?
whatever
Played by Tyler
guy.
Perry.
What do you call the guy that did the experiment on Scorpion to turn him into Scorpion?
What was his name?
Whatever that guy's name was.
Farley
Stillwell?
Stillwell. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever the Human Fly was like, hey, Scorpion turned out to be a rising success. I would like you to experiment on me, and he turned him into the Human Fly, which wasn't a great success, all things considered.
So as I'm going through this list, I'm finding out. So when I think of the Sinister Six, I think obviously like the later incarnations where it's like one main dude and a bunch of jokers. So like I'm on the Sinister Six number 11, and that's where I'm pulling some of these names from because I just saw Clown. It's just Clown.
Clown?
Mhm.
Clown.
Okay, I don't know Clown.
Elliot Franklin was born in Orlando, the son of a man named Corky.
And bio. Done.
Kangaroo.
Oh, I love the kangaroo. There's two,
Man
there were
Mountain
two different-
Marco.
There were two different kangaroos. Two people
No
were like,
way.
I'm gonna pick that up.
Brian
Mountain Mar-
Hibbs and Frank Oliver.
Who?
Brian Hibbs was the second kangaroo.
Oh yeah,
Frank Oliver was the first kangaroo.
yeah. Classic all around. Classic
Man
character.
Mountain Marco.
I remember him from like ages ago, but I don't
Yeah.
remember him doing anything recently.
Was he just a big, strong guy? Basically?
I think he's just a big guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the cover seems to suggest. He's just a big dude.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, there's the squid. We talked about him earlier.
Classic.
Gibbon?
Yeah, he is just a guy in like a monkey suit. Basically.
I don't think he's even in a monkey suit. I think he's been turned into a monkey.
Martin
Really?
Blank is a man who's seemingly born a mutant with an ape-like build and agility.
There
He's
you
a
go.
mutant. Do you think he's on Krakoa?
Maybe.
Oh, absolutely, front and center.
Oh my God, Dylan. The Gibbon has been shown as retaining his physical mutation following M-Day, but showed no sign of his former mutant abilities.
Oh no.
So, oh dear. He was a lead character in Marvel Apes, as one would hope.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, apparently he died though.
Oh no.
As he lay dying, he reflected on his life while also coming to the conclusion that Princess Python never loved him. Spider-Man showed up and showed him some comfort by seeing to it that Gibbon did not die alone.
How
tragic.
was that in like the Kraven Hunt storyline where he basically filled Central Park with all the animal-based Spider-Man villains, or just Marvel villains, I guess, and then set them on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's fucking rude. They're Sinister Six alumni. I mean, they may not have been on the same team, but it would be like, hey, this guy was in the same fraternity as me. Come on, there's got to be some sort of a camaraderie.
Yeah, but it's Kraven the Hunter though, so like,
Oh yeah, he's a dick.
Yeah, we already talked about how he's got that anxiety and he wants to kill stuff.
Yeah, he got away from him and he was just beside himself, and he self-medicates his anxiety with murder.
Understandable. If my dog ran away, I would absolutely hunt down anybody that dresses like a monkey and shoot them in the middle of Central Park. Just the natural response,
Absolutely. Let's see who else we got here that looks weird. Well, I mean, I know who these guys are, but I just love saying the name Fancy Dan.
Oh, the Enforcers?
The Enforcers, yeah. There are 3 Kraven the Hunters? Good lord. It's one dude. How can he have 3?
Wow.
It's complex.
It is complex. Also, he came back, so
yeah.
technically he was Kraven the Hunter twice.
And then he cloned himself and then killed himself the second time, and the clone basically took over from him as well. So
yeah, and then was it his son or his?
I think his 2 sons adopted the Kraven.
One of them was the Grim Hunter.
Wasn't his wife also one?
His daughter was involved as well.
Her name was Kravina.
Was it really?
No, I'm fucking around. Is it sad that it sounded like theoretical based off of these names we're talking about?
Do, right?
Oh dear. All right. Yeah, the daughter of Kraven the Hunter, Anna Kravenov.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, here's the thing. It is the fun of comic books where they are always a little goofy and a little weird, and it's I think the Sinister Six is sort of like an embodiment of, you get a good idea, and then as time goes on, it just kind of gets watered down to the point where, when I think, like I said, when I think of the Sinister Six, I think of like one main dude and then a bunch of like jokes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hydra Man and the rest.
Yeah. Like Hydra Man's leading a team and he's got to fill it out with like, the squid. Yeah. And the kangaroo, both versions of the kangaroo. So that's 2 members there.
I'm pretty sure the first one's died. So.
Oh, he came back.
Did he?
Yeah, he came back.
But he's dead, and it's comics. No, he can't come back from the dead.
No, it was a Krakoan thing. So the kangaroo was a mutant that he was born thinking he was Australian.
Makes sense.
Here you go.
Explained. There you go.
Well, I kind of think that's going to do it for us. I don't know, like, do you have any like closing remarks that you want to make about the Sinister Six? I mean, we picked some pretty interesting lineups.
I think we did pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
agree
I have
with
to
that.
say there was a surprising lack of crossover minus Hydra Man, which I mean he is the most popular character.
And Hobgoblin.
Hobgoblin. Yeah.
We had different versions of the Hobgoblin, or at least I did.
Yeah. But we were still united on the goblin idea.
Yes.
You know.
You need a goblin if you're going after Spider-Man.
You pretty I mean it
Or
seems like
6 of them.
okay.
See,
well,
I just now learned that there was an alternate in case something didn't happen. I could have thrown in Grey Gargoyle.
okay.
Yeah, see, I learned something new today.
I mean, I don't know why you'd want to.
No.
I will say though, I'm actually very I'm afraid it's going to come off condescending, but it's more of like I didn't think anyone would know this information. The fact that I was like, I've never heard of this character before, and both of you are like, oh yeah, no, that's this guy. Like that's awesome. Like just
But we know
the fact you like know that stuff is awesome. I think I love like C and D list characters for shit like that.
we know Spider-Man. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wish I didn't know the grey goblin, but
Yeah,
you
I
know.
wish we could just forget all about that shit.
Yeah, you robbed me of that innocence, I guess. I now know he exists. And I sent you guys that panel of Norman Osborn's O-face, so you're welcome.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
thank you for that. That was a beautiful thing to remind us about that. Put this up in the video. Put that picture up right now in the video.
No,
so
that's the
everybody else has
thumbnail.
to see it. Yeah.
That's the thumbnail. It's just gonna be like the thumbnail is just that picture, that panel, and it's you drawing the three of us looking like uncomfortable and or horrified.
I'm just not gonna draw anything. It's just gonna be the really close up pic, like it's zoomed in as far as you can go.
I just don't know why they did that.
Mm.
The story was bad enough, but then you got Diodato making Tommy Lee Jones look like that. Oh boy. You know, actually, real quick, I enjoyed Mike Diodato's work. It was always really, really dark though. Like I always like felt like the ink would rub off on your fingers if you were reading it.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of black ink.
Yeah.
And
But
that
I'm
picture,
like you. I think the way he like drew certain characters and like based them off certain people in real life really worked. And Tommy Lee Jones felt like, yeah, I can see Norman Osborn looking like Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I thought it worked out well. You know,
Mm.
I can see. I remember there was like at the time, this just used to be a big old joke thing, and I'm sure you could still look it up and find it funny. Is with Greg Land and the accusations of him tracing because people would find the source pictures and like how every female character he drew were like, you know, porn stars and such.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember there was a lot of like, oh, is Mike Diodato tracing like these still images of like Tommy Lee Jones and stuff? But yeah, no. I thought I what I will say is it's distressing to me that I now have an idea of what Tommy Lee Jones looks like while he's having sex, thanks to Mike Diodato. So, you know, if you're listening, thanks for that.
he's definitely listening.
I think so too. I bet Mike Diodato is like sitting there like with a pen and paper writing down his ideas for a Sinister Six, and he's gonna leave a comment about it.
Yeah. You can't pick Hydra Man 6 times, so.
No. Well, I mean, if his consciousness is in every drop of his water, then you could theoretically have a Sinister 60 of Hydra Man.
We're gonna talk about this on a different episode.
We are. So just a quick reminder, everybody, there is our YouTube page that has this episode that you're currently watching if you're watching there, and then a bunch of old stuff. If you're on Spotify, you know, we're obviously there too, and there's some older episodes there. This is maybe I think are going to be our sixth, seventh episode. So we've been doing, I think we're one away from breaking what we did last time. I think we only made it to 8 last time before we fell off entirely for a year. So we're going strong.
This time we're never gonna stop.
No, we aren't.
We'll never stop.
So you know, we have some fun stuff in the future. We got other episodes where we're going to make fictional lineups like this one, if you found that funny. We're going to have more breaking down individual X-Men. We're going to have a watch along where we're going to watch Generation X, I guess. If it works, that will be amazing because I cannot wait for you to see this, Dylan. I saw it when it premiered live, never saw it again. And even as a kid where like nostalgia will normally like give you the rose tinted shades, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is any good.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time. But until then, everyone, I'm Corey, and this has been Dylan and John. Let us know which lineup of the Sinister Six you enjoyed the most, and we will see you all later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Vote Hydroman.